Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to today's webinar on AXA and Copilot. My name is Jessica Doobie and I'm going to be taking you through this morning's webinar. So a lot of you will know that this webinar was supposed to be co-hosted with myself and my colleague Mike. Unfortunately, he is off sick at the moment, so I will be hosting the entire webinar this morning. So just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded and I will send you all a recording of today's webinar by the end of play today. So if any sections do go slightly too fast or you feel that you want to rewatch any of it at all, you will have the opportunity to do so. Do remember as well, you can ask questions. As you can see at the very bottom of this agenda, there is a live Q&A at the end, and I would love to see questions come through and to see you guys engaging with me. So please do ask questions as they crop up. This webinar will take around 45 minutes to go through, depending on the number of questions. So let's start with the agenda. So first of all, I'm going to very quickly be taking you through the content edit section of Fixflo, because a lot of this webinar is to do with you guys having that well-deserved break over Easter. So you may want to amend your Fixflo welcome message, letting occupiers know your office opening times, and also where you can update your emergency contact numbers if you do want to do this for the Easter period or just in general. Then we're going to be focusing on Copilot, where I'm going to first of all go through an introduction to Copilot. I'm going to let you know how you can set up Copilot rules on your Fixflo site. And then we're going to be going through an example of a Copilot rule in action. After that, we'll be going through the order of your Copilot rules, as really that is very important. And then I'll be going through AXA. So AXA was the section that Mike was going to be going through. He really is the AXA expert here at Fixflo. However, I do feel like I will be able to present this to you guys well as well. So first of all, we'll be going through the benefits of using AXA, then how to set up AXA on Fixflo. We also have some fantastic guides available on help.fixflo.com for this. And finally, although we will have already gone through Copilot, I will quickly show you how you can set up an AXA rule on Copilot as well. And as I mentioned, the live Q&A will be at the end of the webinar. It's at the end just to keep everything on track. So please do get your questions over as they come to you, and I will answer them all at the end. So there we go. Any questions? The Q&A button, it's here on the screen for you. Simply click there. If you can avoid the chat, please, it just means we can streamline everything. And also I have added a couple of polls to this webinar. So I'm just going to launch the first poll now. That's just to get some feedback about your kind of current situation. But first of all, let's start with a little bit of content edit. So obviously Easter's coming up. You may want to change the welcome message, which sits within your Fixflo site, to let occupiers know, for example, that maybe your certain office hours or anything like that, or maybe just to be more descriptive when they submit an issue on Fixflo, add a photo, anything like that. So to do that, you will need to have administrator rights, as you will need to click here on Setup on your left-hand menu sidebar. Ooh. From there, you can click here on Content Edit. Now, within Content Edit, you're taken to two tabs. The first one is the Content tab, and that's where we will be staying. But there's also the Fault Tree pop-ups tab, and that allows you to change the actual guidance and advice pop-ups that you have on Fixflo. But first of all, let's start with the welcome message. Now, the welcome message sits at the top of the occupier site, and you can amend that within the Content tab by scrolling down, and it's the very bottom part of this tab. In fact, it's called Text Issue Welcome. So by clicking into this, you can see your current message, and you can very easily amend this. Just like a Word document, you add the information you want and then press save. So this is at the top of the page when occupiers go to report issues, And again, you may even just want to wish them a happy Easter. You can add emojis as well to make it a bit fun if you want to. But the idea here is you may want to say your office hours. If you obviously make this change for Easter, remember when you come back, you will need to change it back. But that's where you can change it. And also emergency contact numbers. So again, it's in setup and content edit. And again, it will be towards it's actually at the very top. So the first one's the welcome message is at the bottom. The numbers is at the very top of this page. And it's agent telephone numbers. Now, this is where you can add your office hours, out of hours. You can put an emergency contact information there. Some people put, for example, locksmith, plumber, lots of different kind of people that they may want to reach out to. So if you want to add any information about emergency contact information, that can all be put here in the agent telephone numbers. Just to let you know, if you are going to add your telephone numbers, you need to make sure that obviously this is then pulling through to the pop-ups which you want it to be on. So to do that, again, it will be in the content edit section, but now we'll be going to the fault tree pop-ups part. So this tab here. And for example, if I just go to one of my pop-ups, for example, here, boiler, I need to make sure that I've got the office hours token somewhere here on the pop-up. So I've actually changed this, but if I've got this token sitting, so if I copy that, and I paste, that will then pop the office, those emergency numbers from the place within the content tab into this particular pop-up. So you must make sure that you're using the correct token then within the correct so I hope that makes sense. And remember, any changes, do press save. Any questions again, guys, please make sure that you use the Q&A button. I hope that makes sense. You can add the office hours numbers, but you must make sure you're using the correct tokens or it will not pull through. Okay, so that's how you can change your welcome message and also add emergency numbers and amend them. Now we're going to be moving on to Copilot. And the first thing I want to do is give you guys an introduction to Copilot. So for those of you who aren't quite sure what it means, hopefully this will give you a really good introduction. And then we'll be moving on to how it works in practice. So Copilot is your automated works assistant. You do not need administrator rights to use Copilot. Anybody has access. Here is where you can set up parameters to say that when X happens, you would like to automate Y. So you're saying when a specific issue gets reported, you would like something to automate. The benefits of using Copilot, it can save you and your team time by automating works onto a contractor. So this can be both out of hours and during hours. For example, if a certain issue always goes to the same contractor, you can automate it and take that manual instructing works to a contractor part out of your normal day. It can keep your occupiers protected during out of hours by automating works during these times. And also you can notify users such as landlords or occupiers about issues as well. So it's a really, really good system. It's your automated works assistant. And let's have a look now at how this works in practice. And we're going to set up some parameters. I'm going to show you what options you have. And it's a really great tool to use, especially for out of hours, especially over, for example, Easter, where you guys just want to sit back and relax. You don't want to have to be thinking about maintenance. So Copilot will sit on your left-hand menu sidebar and it sits just here at the bottom. And as I just mentioned, everyone has access to this. By clicking on Copilot, here she is. So this is your friendly works automated assistant. And you can now add rules. So this is where you set the parameters. You can add a rule at the beginning by either clicking here on add rule or going here to the top. And when you do this, it will take you through to some templates. As you can see, there are some templates available for you, or what you can do is add from scratch. So that's what I'm going to do to show you how you would now set this up. Once you click on add, it will then take you through to this add rule page within Copilot, where we can now go through and add a rule. So the first thing you'll need to do here is add a rule name, and this is mandatory. I would really recommend that when you're adding a rule name, to make sure that the rule name makes sense, not just to you, but to perhaps your colleagues as well. So try and be as descriptive as possible here to make sure that actually when you're looking at the rules, because once you've got, say, for example, you've got 4 or 5 rules set up, you want to be able to clearly see from the name what that means rather than having to click in. So the more description you can add here, I would really say the better. So, for example, here, I'm going to say, okay, so here I put what the rule is. So I'm going to, with my example, set a rule that if people are locked out, I want something to automate, because obviously that's an emergency. I've put the time here. So I've put Thursdays, as today is Thursday, so we're going to play with it today. And also I put instruct to Reggie. So that's one of my contractors. Obviously, when you add your rule name, it will be different depending on what it is you're adding. But just make sure that it does make as much sense as possible. And then you can enable the rules. So rules can easily be enabled and disabled. So that can be done. And I will show you as well, when you've actually got the rule, how easy it is to disable rules once it's set up. So now we've got our filters and also our actions. So our filters are our parameters saying that when X happens, and then our action is we want Y to automate. So let's start with the filters, and to add a filter, you can add as many filters as you like, and we can click here to add a new filter. This will then come up with this add filter pop-up, and you can add filters by using this drop down. So I'm going to go through and give a quick description of all of the drop downs, and then I'm going to add a rule and we're going to test it together. So the first one here is any. So this is extremely broad. This is saying that if anything happens at all, you would like something to automate. Just underneath that, we have got covered by network. Now this is to do with our network contractors, including AXA. So we will go through this in a bit more detail later. But if, for example, you would like AXA to be instructed works when certain jobs come through, you must ensure that the filter you have is covered by network. And I will show you that later, because otherwise on the action, you will not be able to instruct it to AXA. Next, we've got period. So this is a specific period of time. So with Easter coming up, that's a fantastic example, because you might want to say that over the Easter break, and you're all entitled to that break, of course, you want to make sure that your issues are getting covered during that break, because as we all know, maintenance issues don't stop. If you wanted to have, for example, the Easter break covered, you could then select period, and you could select a specific period of time to say that you would like this job or these actions to happen between X date and X date. And then after that, it will not happen again. So this is a specific one-off period of time. Great for Easter, great for Christmas, any bank holidays at all. Then next here, we've got fault. So with fault, this is where you can select and be extremely granular to say that you want a specific fault to be covered and automated. We'll go over that in a bit when I select my fault for this example. Fault priority. So when an issue is reported on Fixflo, it will be given a fault priority. Fixflo does provide this, and it is taken from the social housing standards. Also, if somebody selects that there's a vulnerable occupier at the property, which is one of the checkboxes when an occupier reports an issue, then the priority of the issue will increase. So you could say, for example, that you want a certain fault priority, such as emergency repairs or urgent issues, to be covered. Time. So time is different to period. Time is recurring time period. So for example, every weekend, every evening. For this example, I put Thursdays. So I'm going to select Thursday when I go through my example. So this is saying that every single, and then you can add a recurring period of time. Next, we've got location. So you can be location specific. So I'm sure you're guessing by now how granular you can be when it comes to Copilot. You could literally say that you want, within a certain time period, a specific fault at a specific location. You only want those to be automated. It's all about setting up your rules correctly, doing it carefully, slowly, not rushing it, and maybe getting a colleague just to double check them as well. But you can get extremely, extremely granular. So with location, you would pop in a postcode. With postcodes, you can only add just the out code if you want. So for example, SW4, or you can add the entire postcode. It's up to you, but you can get that granular if you'd like. Property. So obviously your properties sit within Fixflo. You can search for properties here and add on a per property basis that you would like certain properties to be covered by Copilot, AXA if you've got AXA set up as well. So that's absolutely fantastic. You can add multiple properties as well, like this, and just keep adding them until you're happy. Property tag. So you can add property tags to properties. And essentially what this does is it groups properties together. For example, you could tag properties as, I don't know, has British Gas home care, or you could have them as does not have home care, has gas, anything like that. And then once you've got that group of properties together under a specific tag, you could then say that you want all of those tags to have a Copilot rule. That can be fantastic. For example, if you know certain properties have British Gas home care, you could have a Copilot rule where the occupier receives a notification to say, please make sure you contact British Gas home care. This is the number as you are covered. Anything like that. So this can be particularly helpful for things like that. The next one we've got here is landlord. So again, you can get landlord specific. Obviously, you must make sure that your landlords are associated with the correct properties for this to work. But you could then say, for example, I know that this particular landlord wants to deal with maintenance issues themselves. I'm going to notify him when an issue comes through. So again, that allows you to get granular there. And also raised by, whether the issue is raised by you or other people. When I'm talking about other people, occupiers can report issues, landlords can report issues on their behalf, and also contractors can report issues as well. So you could say that anything that's not raised by an agent, you would like Copilot to then action. So these are the filter options. And as I said, you can set up multiple filters. If we now go back to this example, so this one is locked out on a Thursday. So the first filter then I would want to add for this example to show you how this works in practice would be fault. When I select my fault, you can see all of the faults available here within Fixflo, and this is all to do with somebody being locked out. So I'm going to want to click here on doors, garages and locks. Just to let you know, I can tick the entire box there, which means that absolutely everything under doors, garages and locks will then be ticked. Meaning if I set up a rule with this particular selection, anybody who reports an issue at any of these faults, that will then be automated. I can, however, be more granular by just opening this up and deciding that actually I want to go into locks and keys, and I want it to be if somebody loses their key. Now I can tick again this entire box here to say that only if they go to doors, garages and locks, click on locks and keys, and then go into key lost and select any of these options. I would like this to be automated. With this example, I think I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to click OK, and we can now see that the fault type has added there as a filter. Then I can continue to add filters. If I was to leave it there and add an action, then that would mean that anybody, any time of day or night, who reports that issue, that would then be automated as per my action. But if I want to get slightly more granular, I can do so. So I'm going to add another filter based here on my rule name, and I'm going to add a filter for time. When I add a filter for time, you can see here all of the days of the week appear and also all of the hours. So you can do this on an hour by hour basis. And just to let you know, because I'm obviously choosing Thursday, I'm going to select the whole of Thursday there. Obviously, I can get more granular to have, I just want Thursday nights or whatever. You can literally just do this to kind of say if you want just evenings, you can literally just drag and drop almost if you wanted to do that. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to select Thursday, and then I'm going to press OK. So you can see now the time of day filter has also added, and I can continue now to add filters if I'd like to. With this example, I'm quite happy with these two filters. Location, I'm not too worried about just with this example. Obviously, if you cover a really wide area, you want to make sure that the right contractors are going out to the right people. So you might want to be slightly more area specific, but this is just my example here. And when you add an action, you can add 2 actions. So you can add up to 2. With this example, I'm going to click here on add an action. And as you can see, there are now 4 actions I can add. The first one is called do nothing, and I'm going to explain that in some more detail a bit later. Next here, we've got notify. That is where you can notify a specific user and also add an email address to notify them specifically, and you must add a message. Next here, so a good example of that, I would say, is, for example, like I said before, if you've got property tags where certain landlords like dealing with certain issues, you then may want to notify them about the issue. Next here, we've got instruct works and request quotes. So these are part of our regular workflows you can use on Fixflo. So with this example, I want to instruct a works. Now you can see with the contractors, I will now select my contractor. AXA will not be there, even if I've got AXA set up, because I did not choose covered by network in my filters. But again, I'll go into some slightly more detail about that later. Request quotes, you can obviously select more than one contractor there if you want to, because when you do request quotes, you can request quotes from one or more contractors. With this example here, I'm going to instruct works and I'm going to choose my contractor. So your contractors must be sitting within Fixflo already in order for you to instruct works to them through here. I can add a works authorization limit if I wish, and also you must provide an instruction note. You cannot set up an action without it, as you can see. So, for example, here I'm going to say, I'm going to keep it nice and short, just for the purpose of the webinar. And then press OK. And once I've done that, you can see the action then pulls through for me. Again, when you're doing this yourself, please just double check you're fully happy with everything, because now you are automating works when you set up Copilot. So you want to make sure you're fully happy, press save. And once you've pressed save, I can now go back into Copilot and I can see my rule is now sitting here. I can see how many times this rule's actually been activated. So far, none, nothing's happened. I can also edit the rule, copy the rule. I can view the history, so every issue that's gone through for that rule, and I can also delete the rule. Rules can easily be disabled and enabled just with the tick of this button here. I can clearly also see the rule number here. This is number 1. And I can see the rule name. So that is why I said be really specific, because you can imagine once you've got a number of rules sitting there, you don't just want to see like rule 1. You want to be able to really be able to understand exactly what this is saying. Okay, so I've got my rule set up, and now we're going to pretend that I'm an occupier and I've just been locked out of my property. So I'm going to log out, and I'm the occupier now, and I've been locked out of my property. So I go on to Fixflo. I have no idea Copilot's been set up, by the way. Your occupiers don't know. There is some kind of collateral you can send them if you want to. We do have so much guidance and advice on both Copilot and also AXA. So if you want to send anything out about AXA, you can do to your occupiers. But in this example, I've been locked out. So I go to Fixflo. When occupiers are reporting issues, they can either use this search bar here, or they can use the icons just underneath. With this example, I'm going to go through the icons. So I want doors, garages and locks, which sits up here. Now, if I go through anything except for locks and keys, and then key lost, nothing else will automate because this is the only parameter that I've set up to automate. So if I click on any of these, because remember I ticked them all, it will always automate. But again, as an occupier, I don't know that. So with this example, I'm going to say, okay, key is lost and property cannot be accessed. You can see here the out of hours come up and press continue. Now, occupiers must provide a fault detail when they're submitting an issue just to provide you a more complete report. Perfect. So I'm going to go through now and complete this report. When it comes to the address, this can be anything. Obviously, if I had been property specific, postcode specific, or landlord specific, then this really would matter. But in this case, I didn't set any of those filters. So I'm just going to report this issue at Fixflo House. Next, contact details. Now, this will never matter. This will never affect Copilot. Okay, perfect. And finally, this is the final section. So here, obviously, you can add the COVID-19 questions. That's obviously still going on. So if you want to set those up, you can. They become mandatory then for occupiers. And if I say there's a vulnerable occupier, that could affect it if you've got the issue priority set up. But obviously, with being locked out, I believe that does come through as either an emergency or a high priority. We can check in a moment. And also, all occupiers must always agree to the Fixflo terms and conditions. So once that's done, I'm the occupier now, happy with that. I want to submit this because obviously I've been locked out now. I'm not very happy, lost my key. Cool, I've submitted the issue now as an occupier. We do have a video available within our help site showing how occupiers report issues. So if you do feel like you're not quite sure on that, you can always watch that video. We have so much guidance and advice available for you to help you. That's all available within our help site, which you can access here. Need help, where if you click here, you can search for our guides and videos and also contact us here. It's the very best way to contact us. It will prompt you to add things like the IS number. You can take screenshots through here as well, but please make sure you've checked help first. So that issue has now been reported. So if I now click back onto Copilot, I can see now the hit count of this has actually gone up to 1. So if I click on that, I can go to the history here, and it says here that this issue raised today at 11:28, so you're probably quite happy that's the issue I just reported, has actually gone through Copilot. So it's been automated. If I click into the issue here, it will take me straight through to the issue to the detail tab. If I go to the next steps tab, the issue status sits up here. So it's not come through as a reported issue. Instead, it's gone to job awarded, awaiting appointment date. So I'm happy with that. We can check the audit tab as well. And this explains that this has gone through Copilot. So it says it's gone straight from reported to job awarded, awaiting appointment date. And it says it's been instructed to Reggie here. So we can see the information here. We can also see the rule here. You can view the rule straight from the audit tab as well. So if ever you have an issue with you have a query with an issue, and you think, gosh, why has that happened? The audit tab is the very best place to look because it will tell you kind of what's happened. And the contractor has already received this email to award them the job. So it's taken that manual step out of it for me. Again, you can use this if, for example, every single boiler job always goes to the same contractor. There's no need for it to come through as reported. It can go straight to that contractor, making things quicker for your occupiers and taking that kind of manual step out for you as well. And as you can imagine, great for out of hours, great for the weekends, and when, for example, you want that well-deserved break over Easter. The very same emails will also go out to you to say a new issue has been reported, and the occupier will also receive their email as well. So just to show you, this is the one that goes out to you guys. So you're happy with this, you know that this issue has been reported, and also that occupier will get that all important email to say thank you for reporting the repair, which actually complies with section 21 as it provides the occupier with an adequate response. So all of that is there for you. I really hope that makes a lot of sense, and it does kind of make you feel excited about using Copilot. I would recommend that when you set it up, again, just set your rules up slowly, make sure you're happy, and maybe test it as well, and just make sure that you're happy with how it works. But it is a really, really great tool to use for those rules that you want to automate. Before I go on to AXA, I just want to explain to you the rule do nothing, as I did promise I'd explain that, and also talk about the order of the rules. So I'm back in Copilot, and I'm going to click here on add rule. I'm again going to go through this empty rule option just to start from scratch. And I'm going to say here, so you might have certain landlords that say to you, do you know what, I really love Fixflo, I love what you guys are doing, but I'm not sure about this automation. No problem at all. What you can do is, with this example, I'm setting up a rule called landlord, and his name is Michael Moonling, and I'm putting here do nothing. Again, I'm going to enable this rule, and what I can now do is click here to add a new filter. I'm going to, for this example, just go to landlord, and I'm going to add that landlord here and press OK. And then in actions, so this is what I want to explain to you here, do nothing. What that means is that absolutely nothing will happen, and instead the issue will come through just as normal as a reported issue. If I was to set this up, okay, so the action we can see is nothing, and press save. What I now need to do within my Copilot rules, as I add a rule, it will fall to the bottom of those rules. Now, the order of the rules is so important. So let me explain this to you. When an issue comes into Fixflo and is submitted, the first thing that will actually happen is the issue will come to Copilot, and it will say, has what's been reported, does it match exactly any of the rules that have been set up by this agency? And it will then go to rule number 1, first of all. So it will go to locked out Thursdays instructor Reggie. If the answer is no, and the parameters do not match exactly, then it will go to rule 2, rule 3, and so on. So it will literally go through the order of the rules that you've got set up. Say, for example, Michael Moonling says to me, I'm not sure about all of this. I don't really want you to use Copilot for my properties. If I've got the rules set up in this way, and an occupier at Mr. Moonling's property reports that they are locked out on a Thursday, because it will hit rule 1 first, it will go on and automate straight away, which is what Michael Moonling, who is essentially my client, doesn't want. So I must make sure that that rule is actually dragged and dropped on top. Therefore, if an occupier at Mr. Moonling's property reports that they are locked out on a Thursday, the issue is submitted, it will come into Copilot, it will go to rule 1, it will see that the property is at Michael Moonling, is one of Michael Moonling's, and the issue will go straight to reported. It will not even hit rule 2. So you must make sure, if you're using the do nothing section, that that is always taken to the very top, so that the rule will never ever get to a rule where it will actually automate and go and do something. I really hope that makes sense. Do get your questions in. I can see a few have come in already, which is great. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go through AXA. It just keeps us on track, guys, but I promise I will get to your questions. Keep them coming. The order of the rules is so important. And remember, if you do have periods set up, once that period of time is finished, that rule will never ever action again, because it won't be in that specific period of time. So it doesn't really matter then where that rule is once that period of time has ended. AXA. So this was supposed to be Mike's side, so please be kind. I will do my very best, I promise. So benefits of AXA. So this is where you can instruct emergency works to vetted, qualified contractors. It's fantastic for emergency situations where nobody else is available. You can auto instruct emergency repairs to AXA using Copilot. So as well as being able to auto instruct via Copilot with AXA, you can actually manually instruct repairs to them as well. AXA will also, so there are SLAs with AXA. One of their SLAs is that they will call the occupier within an hour of the issue being reported to them. So that's a really, really good benefit here. Again, it's really for those emergency repairs. There are a number of issues that AXA will resolve, and there are a number that they won't resolve. They're resolving emergencies. They're resolving issues where there's no power, where there's no heating, where people are locked out, pests and vermin. On our help site, again, we have got a full list of what they will and will not do. So please check that out as you want to be sure that you're happy. And again, these can be manually instructed to AXA and also auto-instructed. Fantastic for those out of hours with Easter coming up. Issues are also triaged by AXA. So they will triage them, and they will, on the phone, when they call the occupier, they're going to make sure, is this actually an emergency? If not, they won't go out. If so, they will. You can easily switch it on and off. So you can enable and disable rules on AXA. Enable and disable rules on Copilot, as I showed you before. So you can do that for AXA ones as well. And also you can always switch AXA off if you're not happy with it. And also you pay per job. So you do not need to pay a sign-up fee. There are no monthly fees or cancellation charges at all. You literally pay per job that goes to AXA. So I hope that all makes sense. What I'm now going to do is show you how can you set AXA up. So I saw a lot of you weren't actually set up with AXA, but it's a really great thing to sign up to. And as I just mentioned, you don't need to pay to sign up. You're literally paying per job. It's a really great thing as well, just to be sure of and have that peace of mind during, for example, Easter, which is soon approaching. You will need to have administrator rights to set AXA up, and we do have some fantastic step-by-step guides that Mike has put together. Again, all available on our help site, which again, you can access here on Need Help. So setup. So this is where you will click, and from setup, you will want to click here on Contractor Marketplace. Once I've clicked through to here, you can see AXA is at the top. We do have some other ones as well that you can get involved with. But for now, I'm going to be focusing on AXA. I have actually already set mine up. You can see here that I've got a tick. But just to let you know, when you first of all see it, if you have not already signed up, there will be some terms to agree to. Now, these terms, as you can see, can be viewed at any time by clicking here on View Accepted Terms, and you can revoke these at any time as well. So you can always, like I just mentioned in the benefits, you can always change your mind. Once you've accepted the terms and conditions, you'll need to come to this Director's Detail tab. Now, this is where you will add the Director's details. So it's all very self-explanatory. And again, we do have the setup guides. Again, they're kind of step-by-step. Mike's put them together. They're fantastic. Here you can add, for example, you must add like your business name, the business contact information and address. And you also need to add the Director's details. Once you've added all of this information, it's really important, and you 100% must, in fact, vital, to agree to the Mango Pay terms and conditions. Mango Pay is a third-party software, and that is where you will pay through. So when AXA has completed a job, the very next working day, the direct debit will go out, and that will all be done through a company called Mango Pay. Once you've agreed to those terms and conditions, you can scroll up and click here on Bank Accounts, where you will then need to set up a direct debit. Once you've added the bank account, you will need to then confirm that direct debit here on this little section here. And mine's already been confirmed, but I can always press delete if I want to remove it. So guys, remember, if you set up AXA, you can always revoke this. It's not set up for life, and you're literally paying per job. It's all done through Mango Pay. You'll set up your direct debit here, and the money will go out the very next day. In settings as well, you can here, for example, say your VAT registration. And just to let you know, within sign up, you can click here on Edit Setup and in fact, add a management fee as well. This can be either fixed or a percentage. So you can add all of that for commission if you want to. And again, AXA is just fantastic to make sure that you're covered all times. So I hope that makes sense in terms of setup. Again, setup, Contractor Marketplace, literally you'll just follow the process. It's very easy to do. The bank account section is really important just to make sure you set up the direct debit correctly. And again, you can always view the accepted terms at any time. We have fantastic guidance, and I will send that all to you by the end of play today, along with this recording. Once you've got AXA set up, as I said before, you can manually instruct jobs that they will take care of to AXA. So for example, if a boiler issue comes through, I've got an example here on my dashboard. If I was to instruct these works, AXA will appear at the very top because this is an issue that AXA will in fact deal with. So I can easily send this out to AXA here manually. And you can set this up for Copilot. So again, this is to do with automating works straight to AXA. Fantastic for the upcoming Easter. To do that, as I've mentioned before, when you add a rule, something really, really important is you must ensure you click here on Covered by Network. If you have not selected Covered by Network, you cannot choose AXA. So once you've clicked on Covered by Network, you will select AXA here. You will press OK. And then when you go, obviously, add your other filters, add your rule, enable the rule. And then when you click here to add an action, I would highly recommend, first of all, you'll need to instruct works. That will be network, so it already knows it's going to AXA. Again, if you haven't selected Covered by Network, this will not go to AXA. You will add an instruction note here as well to AXA. Again, you cannot do it without that. And you can also add a works authorization limit here as well. There is a rate card as well on AXA, all available on our help site, so please do check that out. And you'll add an instruction note here and then press OK, and that will then go out to AXA. Remember, just to make sure, again, your filters you're happy with. And we highly, highly recommend that you add a second action when you are instructing works to AXA. This action should be to notify the occupier. Now, the reason being is because the occupier will receive a phone call within 1 hour of the issue being sent on to AXA. And if it's in the middle of the night when the occupier reported this issue and that automates onto AXA, you want to make sure that the occupier is picking up that call and the issue is in fact getting resolved. So please make sure you add that second action. You can add up to 2 actions per rule, and you're notifying the occupier to say, hey, please keep an eye out for a phone call. On our guidance on help.fixflo.com, we do in fact have a template as well there that you can use just to let the occupier know exactly what to expect so that that phone call doesn't get missed and they keep an eye out for that phone call. I believe the phone call comes from a private number, so it's often that we've had issues in the past where the occupier hasn't picked up, especially at an odd time in the morning, and then the job hasn't been resolved as quickly as it should have been. So keeping occupiers in the loop is really very important here. So please make sure that you add both actions when you are instructing to AXA, and then make sure that you're happy with the order of your rules as well. Okay, perfect. I think that is pretty much absolutely everything for Copilot and AXA. I really hope it has been helpful. And do remember that we do in fact have a number of different articles available on our help site. Again, you can access this by clicking here on Need Help. Literally, when I'm in Copilot, the top kind of Copilot ones will come up here. And also I can search here, for example, for AXA. And all of the AXA things come up here. So please make sure that you are checking those out. I have just put a poll out on Zoom. So I'd really appreciate if you could just take a couple of minutes or even less than a minute to answer this. And then I'm going to be going through your questions. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you are leaving now, it's been an absolute pleasure going over both Copilot and AXA with you. I will be answering the questions in just a second. Just to quickly go through the poll. So I'm now going to be going through and answering your questions. I'll leave the poll open. Again, thank you so much for joining us. If you are leaving now, and I'm going to go through and answer your questions now, and the poll is still open. So question 1 comes from Felix. So could it mean that if the property is not tagged, the rule will not apply? So I'm guessing, Felix, you mean that if you're adding a rule and that rule you're using the property tag section here. So yes, if you are adding a tag and one property is not tagged with that tag, then yes, the rule will not apply. So I guess this comes back to, you must make sure your data is correct and that you have got things set up correctly, or this stuff won't pull through. Same with, for example, if you were to add a landlord, but that landlord's not associated to the correct properties, then it will not work either. So you must make sure data is correct and up to date. Property tags, just to show you, will sit here within properties. You can click into a property here and you can add a tag here. So you can, like I say, you can group properties together with tags. They can also be imported. I hope that makes sense, Felix. If you feel like that question wasn't answered properly, feel free to put it in again. Rob Hopkins, does the copilot rule apply for planned maintenance? So I probably should have made this clear. This is for reactive works only. Planned maintenance. So with planned maintenance, what you do is you set up service events, and these are recurring events, Rob. So once you set up a service event, it could be, for example, for a gas safety certificate, and you're saying that you would like a gas safety certificate to go out for certain properties every single year. If that is the case, on the instruction date of that service event, an IS number will automatically be created. When you set up service events, you can add a contractor so that the IS number, when it's created on the instruction date, that issue goes straight to a contractor, meaning it will go to job awarded, awaiting appointment date. If you do not add a contractor, it will go through as awaiting instruction. It will never go through as a reported issue because you're adding the instruction notes. We do have some fantastic guidance and advice. I've also done a featured webinar on planned maintenance. So please do check that out. Again, if you click here on need help, you can search for planned maintenance. But with Copilot, it does work for reactive issues only, as that's what you're automating. Remember, planned maintenance events, they are essentially automated on the instruction date through the service event itself. So I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. Yes, this is for your reactive works only. A question from Lisa. Once you have a Copilot rule created, how can you add additional properties to the rule? So once we've got a rule created, you can click into the rule here, and you can always edit. So for example, say it was time of day, I could click on edit here and I could add Tuesdays, I could add evenings and press OK, but you must remember to press save. If you do not press save and you only press OK, that rule will not save. Exactly the same with properties. If I have a filter here set up for property and I've got Fixflo there and I press OK and press save. If I now go back to my dashboard, then back into Copilot and go back into the correct rule, I can see the property here. I literally just click here on edit, Lisa, and I add an additional property, press OK. You must press save. So just pressing OK is not enough. You have to press OK and then save. That is now edited, and that will take into consideration the additional property and also the additional times. I hope that helps. Okay, so we've got here, Lisa, this is you again. So for example, we already have an exemption from AXA picking up as it has home care. Once the rule was originally created, a property has now been added to home care. So I need to add the rule so AXA will not pick it up. So this will be in your do nothing rule, I think, Lisa, and you just need to make sure that you go in, you edit the filter, you add the additional property or properties, and then you press save. I cannot stress this enough. Just pressing OK and going back will not save the rule. I've had people do it before and they've wondered, why has it not worked? You must make sure you're pressing save. Another question here from Felix. It's really great to see you guys engaging so much. Thank you. So on Copilot, should a quote be received, will the system forward the quote onto a landlord? So this is a good question, Felix. When you set up actions within Copilot, you can only progress the works in two ways: by instructing works to the contractor or by requesting quotes. That's as far as you can go. People have said to me it would be helpful if, for example, they could send the works onto the landlord from Copilot. I can put all of this forward for you to the development team for review, but at the moment, this is where it goes. So once the quotes come back, it will be like a normal workflow on your Fixflo site. Use your dashboard to make sure you're keeping on top of these things. You can also have notifications go out, so you can set up certain emails to go out once quotes have come back. So if you are more of an email person, you can set that up. But this is as far as you go. You instruct the works via Copilot, but then everything else will happen normally, manually. This is just the initial, when the issue comes in, what do you want to happen? I hope that makes sense. And I will put forward to the development team that you'd find it helpful to have additional workflows here, such as allocate to landlord, request landlord advice. It's not there at the moment, not sure whether it's on the roadmap. I know with Fixflo, as you guys probably know, we do releases every 2 weeks. We're always trying to improve things for you. The next improvement's coming out next week, and we're actually amending the dashboard. Myself and my colleague Juwan will be hosting a webinar on the dashboard and how you can optimize that in a couple of weeks. It's on the 13th of April, and we will be promoting that as of next week. So managing your dashboard correctly to continue with those workflows is so important. Love to see you guys on that webinar as well. And we'd love to have you. But I hope that makes sense. So it's the initial, what happens when the issue's been reported, and I will send that through to development about having those additional workflow options. An anonymous attendee. So how much is the standard call out for AXA? Is it possible to add commission to this as per usual contractors? So commission can be set up on the AXA setup. So within setup here, again, you need administrator rights to do this. And if I click here on contractor marketplace, you can click here on edit setup, and you can add a management fee here. So that when so I believe then you would pay AXA, but there would be like an additional fee for you guys. So you can set that up here. With regards to the additional fee, what I can do is I can send out the rate card to you guys, if that would be helpful by the end of play today. So I'll put here guides, rate card. Within AXA, I'll get the rate card out to you. I'm not sure on the top of my head. I do apologise. Like I say, Mike deals with AXA, but we do have so many details here. I will get the rate card out to you for sure. On the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure, but I will get that out to you. But you can add the maintenance or the management fee within the setup itself. Another question from Rob. So can you set a rule for out of hours that will ask the landlord if they wish for AXA to contact the tenant? If they say yes, is there a rule that can, so I see what you're saying. So what Rob's asking is there a rule to say, to send on to the landlord first? And if the landlord ticks that they want it to go to AXA, that will automate to AXA. Unfortunately not. Again, I can put all of this forward for you, Rob. The workflows available are send to AXA, send to a contractor, or request quotes. There is no kind of send to landlord. You can notify landlord, but nothing then would happen from there. I will definitely put that forward for you. Great idea. I can definitely see why you'd want the landlord to say yes first and then have that automate. That is quite a big piece of work, but I'll put it forward for you. As always, we'll always do our best for you to make sure the system is the best it can be. Sarah, I would like to use AXA for out of hours, no heating. However, when the tenant is new and has just moved in a property, they can often call with the kind of issue which is necessary. It's just a user error. How can we manage this automatically? So with AXA, if you are going to set up a rule and you're going to use the covered by network and you choose AXA, one thing I guess to bear in mind is when you click here to add a filter and you choose the fault, only the faults that AXA actually deal with will now display. A lot of them will have actually been weeded out because AXA don't deal with them. So I would say that if you are going to have covered by network and AXA, make sure you're happy with the faults that are actually going out. And in order to make sure that you're happy that actually is an emergency, what you can do, I'm just putting in a random example here. What you can then do is when you put in your instruction note, put in the notes that you want AXA to make sure that this isn't just a user error. I'm not quite sure I'm understanding your question fully, but if you want to use AXA for specific things, you can choose that, because remember, you can get so granular about the faults. Make sure you're doing that, and make sure you're putting in the correct instruction notes here as well. I hope that makes sense, Sarah. If not, send another message. How do you stop an issue from going to AXA if you have a rule set up for another engineer where AXA also cover this? It's all to do with the rule order here, Dominic. So with that, you just make sure that if you don't want a rule going to AXA, but you want it to go to another contractor instead, you make sure that that other contractor is above the AXA rule, because remember, when an issue comes in and is submitted, the issue will go into Copilot, and it will go through your rules one by one in that order. So as long as that rule is on top of the AXA rule, it will always go to your preferred contractor. I do hope that makes sense. The order of the rules is so important, otherwise they are going to go to the issue will automate from the wrong order. So making sure that the order of the rules is set up correctly is so important. Where can I find a full list of faults that AXA cover, please? Thanks for hosting this webinar, Jessica. Oh, you're so welcome. So that will actually be, what I can do is I can actually send that out to you. So I'm going to send out the guides just as general, the rate card, and also full list of faults that they cover, and also a list that they don't, because I think these things are important. So there will be kind of a few buttons on the recording that I send to you later by the end of play today. Obviously click on the ones that you want to see, but I will add that to you as well. Perfect, Rob. I'm glad that your question has now been answered. Dominic, if our engineers can't do the job, will it divert the issue to AXA? Unfortunately not. So with Copilot, you are instructing one thing. If the engineer comes back and says they can't do that, you will then manually need to instruct that to AXA. So Copilot is fantastic. Obviously, it does have limitations. It will automate when the issue initially comes in, and then it will stop there. So if someone cannot do the job, it won't just go on to AXA. It will then go to you manually, and you can then, as I showed you before, you can manually instruct that to AXA. I can send all of these things to development though. Okay, perfect. I've gone through all of your questions. I will be staying online for a couple more minutes in case there are any more. If you are leaving me now, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure going through the system with you today. One quick thing I completely forgot to mention was the case study. I do apologize. We are actually looking for case studies at the moment, so you can appear on our website, something like this. If you would like to get involved, we would be happy to hold your hand a bit more, set things up for you. All we would ask in return is that you help us with a case study so that we can really start promoting AXA and Copilot as well. So please, let me know if you would like to get involved with a case study. You can again contact us through the need help section here, where if you click on contact us, just let me know you'd like to be a case study on either Copilot, AXA, or both. We would absolutely love to help you get set up better, and then there will be like a case study that we would ask you for in return, which would be fantastic, as we are trying to promote this more. It's a fantastic tool, but the more kind of case studies we have, the better. Guys, thank you so much again. It's been a real pleasure. Look after yourselves, keep safe, keep well, and I'll be in touch with you by the end of play today. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.